Hey, what's up everybody and welcome back to News Dose. And now that the PS5 has been on the market for a couple years, a major potential flaw appears to have been discovered. This is making waves right now, as reportedly, depending on how you have your PS5 set up, your PlayStation 5 could actually end up being damaged, or even worse, just flat out break. Yeah, this is actually sounding pretty bad, and it's something that I think every PlayStation 5 owner should know about. That way you can proceed with caution if need be. So we're going to go over that today and talk about exactly what's happening. We're also going to talk about, right now, Xbox's biggest first-party release set for 2023, of course, being Starfield, as it's currently getting some absolutely glowing praise. Yeah, things are sounding great when it comes to Starfield. Before we get into either one of those stories, though, we actually have another piece of PlayStation 5 news that's actually pretty great to hear. I did actually forget to mention this yesterday, but one thing that we've dealt with pretty much all generation long are stock shortages. It's been pretty difficult to get the console or consoles that you want, especially when it comes to the PlayStation 5. This has been a very coveted item. But the good news is that might now be a thing of the past. Not only did Sony announce that the PlayStation 5 just had its best month yet, and it's now officially reached 30 million units sold. Big congrats on that. That is quite the milestone there. But PlayStation boss Jim Ryan also said this: everyone who wants a PlayStation 5 should have a much easier time finding one at retailers globally starting from this point forward. So yeah, that is exactly what you want to hear, and a great sign for the start of 2023. I know for myself personally, I've still not seen either the Xbox Series X or a PlayStation 5 in stores. Now, to be fair, maybe I'm just not looking hard enough. I've already got these consoles, but I've only seen these things sell online thus far, and for such a long period, they were selling out within minutes, if really even that. I mean, sometimes it was just like, they're gone. Now, of course, scalpers, they've played a part in this as well, but if you go over to eBay right now and you search up a PlayStation 5, you'll notice that their price has significantly dropped. They used to go for like $1,000, $1,300, $1,400. I mean, they were going for crazy prices there for a while, but just looking through sold items recently, it seems like they're mostly being sold between $500 to $700, and now that we are leaving that holiday period, I imagine that's going to drop even more sometime relatively soon. Scalpers, yeah, they're going to have to maybe find a new item to sell soon, it seems, but that's something that I think that you all should know as well. If you are on the market for PlayStation 5, I'd say just kind of sit tight. Don't buy these things for above market price, because it looks like they will be much more readily available throughout 2023, maybe even in retail stores. We can only hope. Now, considering this great news for the PlayStation 5, while we're not necessarily hearing anything official, I'd imagine that we'll also see some improvement with the Xbox Series X. I just searched up a few websites a moment ago, including Best Buy, Target, Amazon, and GameStop, and it appears that they are sold out right now, but I'd imagine that we'll see a boost for them as well, much like we saw with the Steam Deck as of recent. It just kind of feels like things are finally getting back to normal for console hardware. I just hope we don't see the same issues when the eventual Switch Successor comes out. I'm hoping that we'll all be able to get one, sooner rather than later. Now, we also got a potential release date leak for Suikoden 1 and 2 HD Remaster. I say this is probably one of the more anticipated JRPGs for 2023, considering these are among some of the all-time greats. Seriously, welcome back, Konami. About time that they're doing things in the console market again. But as of this moment, they've yet to reveal the release date for Suikoden 1 and 2 HD Remaster. So as always, just gotta take this as nothing more than a rumor until officially confirmed. But what's happening here is that a French retailer listed Suikoden 1 and 2 for a March 9th release. I saw this originally posted up over on Go Nintendo, but I went ahead and checked out the store in question, and they actually still have this release date up. They haven't taken it down or anything like that, but, this still could be just a mistake. That's equally as possible here, as we've seen this type of thing happen before. The plot, however, does thicken, because it has been pointed out that this is not the first listing that's been spotted that has Suikoden releasing this March. Apparently, Steam Database at one point in time also had its release as March 2nd. Now, the dates are slightly different, so that's kind of important to keep in mind, but this is the second listing that we're seeing for March. Now, that simply could just be a coincidence, or there could be something more happening here. And if that is the case, then we'll likely get some type of an announcement relatively soon. I mean, by this point, we're only a few months away. Hey, I mean, there has been some speculation for an incoming Nintendo Direct, and this would actually be a great announcement to make at a Direct like that. These JRPGs, they feel perfect on the Switch. I believe that they've performed pretty successful over the generation, so who knows? Maybe a Direct with not only some Zelda news, we're still waiting for some more Tears of the Kingdom information, but hopefully a little bit of Suikoden as well. And hey, come on, let's make Metroid Prime Remake official. Please, I'm begging you, Nintendo, let's make that official. Let's go and jump into this PlayStation story, though, as it's being claimed that the PlayStation 5 has a major design flaw that could potentially damage or even break your console. Yeah, this is in regards to its liquid metal cooling, and you know, the thing about this is that this was always a big question mark for the PlayStation 5. As soon as it was announced that the PS5 would use liquid cooling, there was some concern about the longevity of the PlayStation 5, and I mean, here we are 2 years later, and that concern is starting to become a reality. Now, with that said, the good news here is that there does seem to be an easy way to prevent this from happening. But first, I want to go over exactly what is happening and also where this report is coming from. I do think that that's the first important part to talk about because it does let you know on whether or not you need to take this report seriously. And well, I actually would say that yes, you do absolutely need to take this seriously because this is coming from a repair shop over in France. They've owned this shop since 2010 and they've been repairing consoles for over a decade. So it seems like they have plenty of experience, and really, if you think about it, people who repair consoles, they're going to notice trends as more and more customers continue to bring their consoles in and have similar problems. So now that we're 2 years into the PlayStation 5's life cycle, one trend that they're seeing is that the PlayStation 5's liquid cooling is leaking onto the motherboard. However, and here's the part that you're going to want to know, this appears to be happening for users who sit their PlayStation 5 vertically. From what's being described is that in some cases, the sill between the APU and its cooler can be moved or damaged over time. So if you sit your PlayStation 5 vertically, you know, gravity just kind of takes course and leaks onto your motherboard over time. However, if you sit your console horizontally, even if that sill is damaged, its liquid cooling will stay in place, or at least I assume in most situations. It's also important to keep in mind that this does affect both digital-based consoles and then also the disc versions of the PlayStation 5. Apparently there was some speculation that the disc version might be worse off, you know, that would create some rumbling and some vibrations and maybe affect its cooling over time, but according to the owner of this repair shop, that's not actually the case. Both do have the same issue. So really, I just wanted to make this the feature topic for today to catch as many people's attention because I do think that this news is worth spreading because the more people that knows about it, that's one less person that could have this problem. I actually think it's really cool that this repair shop is even letting people know in the first place because, you know, because that means that they actually do care about their customers. They're not just trying to get money because here's a problem that they keep seeing. No, they're actually trying to help. So I think that that's actually really cool. And however, it does seem easily avoidable. Just go and sit your console horizontally if you want to be cautious. That's completely up to you. Everybody's going to be different. Though that's kind of the thing about the PlayStation 5. The way this console has been made, I'd say that it almost seems more suited for vertical use. You do have that circular platform that it sits on. I mean, it doesn't just sit horizontally on its own. You do have to put it on that circular platform. And it just kind of feels like it's more meant for vertical play. I've never said that about a console in the past. I've always set my stuff horizontally, but in a situation with the PlayStation 5, it does seem very suited for vertical use. Now, at the same time, I do have mine horizontally just because my TV stand, it better suits that. But I mean, otherwise, I would have been very tempted to use it vertically as well. I could definitely see a lot of people doing that. So really my take on this is that we are 2 years into the generation. This is about that time that we become more privy to long-term problems that these consoles might have. I mean, we always knew that liquid cooling was a risk. That's not a surprise, but it does seem to be showing up here. It does sound like that choice could be a major flaw that could affect its overall life cycle in the long run. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody's console is going to die within 2 years. That's not what this means. It just seems like it's a little prone to this issue. However, at the same time, I also don't want to make it out like this is a red ring of death scenario. We truthfully don't have a lot of data yet. Reportedly, he is saying the risk is high, but still, we don't really know how many people it's affected. We just know that the repair shop is trying to warn consumers at the very least, and that it is a trending issue that they regularly see within their customers. That is certainly alarming, I will say that much. So again, if you want to be cautious, I just say go ahead and sit your PlayStation 5 horizontally. If you're not concerned though, hey, that's completely your choice. I just wanted to let you all know in case it is something that might concern you. Next up, let's go and talk about one of the most anticipated 2023 games being none other than Starfield. Now, we should start to get some more official news on this game relatively soon. We are still waiting on an exact release date. It is, after all, planned for a first half of the year release, so I imagine some more official news is inbound, and for that matter, it is starting to sound like an Xbox showcase might be sooner rather than later, as they do continue to be a little coy on social media. Yeah, they might actually be teasing an incoming announcement. I'll come back to that here in just a second, but first, a new rumor is floating around that playtesters are beyond impressed by Starfield. This is coming from Colt Eastwood over on the XNC podcast, where he shared that he had heard some great things about Starfield. The way he kind of described this is that a lot of the times as we lead up to some of these releases, he hears things from people that are in the know, and a lot of the times the feedback that he gets is not necessarily exceptional. Like, they'll tell him you might want to calm down on some of the hype. He used Cyberpunk as an example. He had heard ahead of time that it was likely going to have some issues, which, I mean, as we all kind of know, it very much did. More or less, it seems to him that these people that are talking to him are, they're often correct, and that these games upon launch has been what they've described to him. Well, interestingly enough, these same people that don't always lean into the hype necessarily, they're kind of going in the opposite direction when it comes to Starfield. They're instead telling him that it's exceeding their expectations. They're saying that it's bigger and more ambitious than what was previously expected. Now, to be fair, I think it's been fairly evident for a while that this game is quite large, as it does have like 1,000 plus planets or whatever. But at the same time, we do also know that a lot of that is procedurally generated, and fans, they can be a little bit mixed on that. However, I've always felt that people kind of overblew that situation because, and here's the thing, the main campaign for Starfield is still handcrafted, much like every other Bethesda game. Those procedurally generated planets, they're really just there for fans who want to continue that game after the main campaign. It's a way to give it an almost infinite amount of content. That means 10 years from now, people will still be exploring Starfield because of all of those extra planets. So the way I kind of look at it is that those procedurally generated planets, they almost act as bonus content. But what we're hearing is that even when it comes to the main campaign, the handcrafted content dwarfs anything that Bethesda has ever done before. It is that big. That's what we're hearing right now. And on top of that, this content is reportedly very, very well done. Cole even mentioned that some of the more pessimistic people are coming back impressed. So yeah, I'd say that that's a great sign going forward. I know a lot of people are extremely excited about this game. This is the first completely new IP from Bethesda in decades. And I'd say that after this news here, fans might be more than justified in that excitement than ever before. Now, at the same time, though, do kind of take this as a rumor. But as I said before, we should get some official news relatively soon. Interestingly enough, InXile, one of Xbox's first-party studios, posted a tweet that says new vid props with a picture of what appears to be Starfield related. They even continue to say, Todd calling Phil, please stop them. Now, they did later on kind of back off of this by saying, to be clear, we have no insight into their development or release schedule, but we do have the vigorous duty to make weird videos about it. So, a little bit of a mixed message here, but then there was also Microsoft Game Dev, which responded as well. They did have those little eyeballs emoji, and I mean, it does kind of look like they're teasing something here as they're kind of working together on this, and I mean, at the very least, it's certainly a strange back and forth, and at the same time, there's already those ongoing rumors that an Xbox showcase is coming soon. So I think with all that, maybe this kind of leans into the Xbox showcase, but who knows? Hopefully we do get something official soon. Let's go and take a look at the poll of the day, though, and with all the ongoing speculation about a Nintendo Switch successor, I wanted to ask you all, when do you think Nintendo will release the Switch's successor? And as you can see here, the majority of you all do believe that will be in 2024, with 54% of you all voting for 2024. Then 27% of you all voted for 2025. 9% of you all voted for 2027 or beyond. That will be a very, very long wait if that happens. And then 5% of you all voted for 2023 and 2026. So yeah, the vast majority of you all are not expecting anything to happen this year, but rather in either 2024 or 2025. Now, for me personally, I'm in that group of 2024 as well. I'm kind of looking at early 2024. I think that we could see another Switch scenario where they release it early in the year. I mean, they've had success with that before, so I don't think it's a PlayStation or Xbox scenario where it's pretty much guaranteed that they're going to release it during the holiday. Nintendo's already had success launching outside of the holiday period, so I could see them focusing on the Switch for 2023 and making it the primary console for 2023's holiday period. After all, it is still having a lot of success, and I don't think 2023 is going to be any different. I imagine the Switch, it's just going to keep on rolling. After that holiday period, though, they could then maybe shift their focus onto their next console, whether that be early in the year or a little bit later on. I do, however, find it kind of interesting that a large portion of you do expect 2025 or later. If that were to happen, the Switch would be among their longest generations ever. The original NES, that was on the market for 7 years before we got the Super Nintendo. The Super Nintendo then lasted 6 years before moving on to the Nintendo 64. Nintendo 64, that lasted 5 years before we got the GameCube. Then another 5 years for the Wii, and then 6 years later, we got the Wii U. So, I mean, the Switch is going on its 6th year in just a few months, so, 2023 or 2024 seems very realistic based on their typical timeline. Now, their handhelds, that's a little different. The Game Boy was around for a very long time. That was around for 12 years before we ended up getting the Game Boy Advance. But then the DS, that came out 3 years later. Of course, the Game Boy Advance continued to sell, but we had a quick turnaround there, and then 7 years later for the 3DS. Either way, though, it definitely looks like you all aren't expecting anything this year in 2023. And that's probably a good thing, just in the sense that if nothing happens, well, you won't be disappointed. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode. But if you liked the video, don't forget to hit the notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.